Hi, this is George LeMieux, Chairman of the Board of the Gunster Law Firm, and you're here with us again on Gunster's View from the Top. And today I have the great privilege of speaking with Florida's Attorney General and my friend, Ashley Moody. Ashley, welcome to Gunster's View from the Top.
Great to be with you.
It's great to be with you.
I have to go on View from the Top to catch up with my old friend.
We've got to do a better job of seeing each other. I know how busy you are, and our legislature's in session. And one thing I want to talk to you about, General, is a lot of folks don't know what the Attorney General does. I mean, they hear about the Attorney General in Washington. They know you're out here fighting for consumers and doing other good things for law enforcement. But can you just give folks an overview of what the job of the Florida Attorney General?
I think that is a great place to start. You would be shocked when I go around the state how many folks really don't understand the breadth of responsibilities that's assigned and given to the Attorney General. In fact, I think most people know the term when they vote on a ballot and assume it has something to do with law enforcement, but not much beyond that, which really couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, I do work very closely with law enforcement. Not only our statewide agencies like the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, or Florida Highway Patrol, FHP, but the numerous jurisdictional law enforcement agencies like sheriffs who control law enforcement within their counties and the municipal police chiefs that handle law enforcement duties for their cities. We do a lot of joint investigations. If prosecutions are needed for crossing jurisdictional lines, our statewide prosecutors will handle that. But you are correct. That is just one small part of what AGs do. And our legal duties are given to us by the Constitution and our statutes in Florida. So what may be true in Florida may not be true in Texas or Missouri or New York. They could have completely different responsibilities. So it's really a great question. And so moving from my own specific law enforcement and prosecutorial duties, we also give legal opinions when it's requested by a certain official. Of course, I'm used to doing that. I was a judge for over a decade, so that's a very comfortable thing for me. We also handle all of the criminal appeals in the state of Florida. So we have 20 circuits across the state of Florida where cases are prosecuted. And if anything merits appeal, whether we are pursuing that appeal in very limited circumstances or defending it more often, our attorneys handle that. We also do all of the Medicaid fraud investigations and sometimes the follow-up prosecutions for the state of Florida. So these are Medicaid dollars flow into our state. This is our health insurance program. And oftentimes, as you can just thumb through my press releases, you'll see many, many people like to take advantage of taxpayer money when there's a lot of it to be had. And so you see a lot of fraud and scams and theft from this taxpayer funded program. And we do that as well. We also handle all of the civil defense for many of the claims that the state is a defendant, whether that's a tort claim against one of our agencies or whether I'm fighting to uphold a statute that's been passed in our legislature. We do a lot of that. We also, as you may have seen recently, push back when the federal government tries to insert itself in Florida's autonomy and what we have the legal authority to do. And, you know, Florida, as you know, Senator, Florida is one of the best states, I would say the best state in the nation. We have record tourism last year, the most people wanting to move here over any other state. We're breaking records in education. We have a 50-year low crime rate. I can go on and on and on. And that is because we have had great leadership here. We think strategically, long-term. We're conservative with our purse. There are many great things about Florida, and that is because of common sense leadership. And so if you don't like the way one state is handling its leadership and autonomy and controlling its purse or police powers, you can move to another state. But if you have a federal government that is unlawfully trying to take over some of those powers and rights and tell states how they have to do things, you've got to have a fierce advocate to push back on that. And I ran on that when I ran for Attorney General. And I was so proud this year when you really saw what that meant, when the federal government was trying to really crack down in Florida on how we would, govern during COVID and in many other ways. In fact, they tried to shut down our entire cruise industry. And while that may not be a big deal for some states, for Florida, 60% of the nation's cruises leave from Florida. That's billions of dollars to our state. More importantly, that's so many jobs, the livelihood, the ability to put food on the table. So we pushed back on that. And I know you read this because I know you were watching this case closely. The judge said that act by an unelected bureaucrat within the administration was breathtaking, unprecedented, and authoritarian. So that just gives you some example of the battles that we undertake in the Attorney General's office. I could go on and on. Every legislative session, I hold my breath because there's always a new responsibility they're trying to put in our office. It's a compliment, but it's also a big deal to staff up and get ready for new responsibility. So I know that you remember that from your days there.
Well, I had the privilege of working in the Attorney General's office long ago. You probably were in high school back then, but it's an amazing.
Not, but I'll take the compliment.
You can take it. Amazing office. You do wonderful work, and your leadership has been fantastic. And thank you for not only helping Floridians stay safe, but also for keeping us free, because that's, like you said, a big part of what you've done when the federal government's pushed back. We all have the right to vote with our feet. Federalism's great, but when the federal government does it, as you said, that's more of a challenge. I want to talk to you about also the fact that you sit on the cabinet. So besides your piece of the sovereign pie as the Attorney General of Florida, you also govern with the governor and other cabinet members. I don't think most Floridians fully grasp that. Can you talk about your role on the cabinet?
Of course, and you are absolutely right. This is a little known fact that we have the governor and 3 cabinet members, so 4 folks that sit on the cabinet. And it's not just the cabinet. There are other bodies that meet at the same time as the cabinet meet, but technically, and they're separate bodies. So
like
whether that's
right,
correct. Whether that's controlling our state finances, the State Board of Administration, whether that's overseeing revenue, or FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I mean, there are so many agencies that the cabinet oversees, as well as responsibilities that folks don't really realize. We're oftentimes talking about granting easements on agriculture to maintain all that is fabulous about Florida. I think one of the main challenges over the upcoming decades, as we see record folks across the nation moving into Florida, I mean, numbers that we have never seen. It's wonderful. I love that Florida leads in so many areas. I love that Florida has become this state that people want to get to, they aspire to move to. I think that's fabulous. It presents its own challenges, right? I mean, I'm constantly battling moving companies, or really scam organizations that claim to be moving companies, and they're just ripping off folks because of the increased moving.
Sure.
We're constantly trying to deal with how are we going to address infrastructure in a rapidly growing state. There are going to be challenges, but I think one of the biggest ones, the ones that concerns folks like me, I mean, my family has been here 5 generations. I've never been more proud to be a Floridian, but we've been here a really long time. And the state has changed drastically over that time period. And I think what is going to be a challenge for leaders, both myself and those that come after me, is how do we ensure that our children and grandchildren and their children can enjoy what Florida has to offer as we do. It's beautiful coastlines. It's amazing forests. I mean, we have to preserve what makes Florida amazing. And so I'm committed to doing that. We really try to do that in our positions on the cabinet, and really appreciate Floridians giving us that responsibility.
No, it's an amazing part of your job and great work that you've done with the governor and the other cabinet members. Let me talk to you about a couple of the specific initiatives that you've been working on that I think are really important. You've created this program called Back the Blue, where we're trying to make sure that we're supporting and defending our law enforcement. I know that's dear to your heart, being married to a member of law enforcement, but also being the chief legal officer in the state of Florida. Can you talk a little bit about the Backing the Blue initiative?
Well, as you know, in addition to being a business lawyer, I was a federal prosecutor and then a judge for a decade. In my personal life, when I would come home from serving in the justice system, of course, my dinner conversations were probably a little different than most. We talked a lot about law enforcement and the status of morale and how men and women were adjusting to a climate that I really saw as a judge changing. And that was before, when I came into office, that was 2018. That was the election year. And that was before a lot of the challenges that we have seen over the last few years, some incredibly tragic, unfortunate events, led to this escalation of law enforcement as a whole, the profession rising to the mainstream almost. And what I ran on was we need an attorney general that understands what this means, the danger of a degrading morale or a decreasing morale among our law enforcement ranks, what that means to the stability of our system of justice under a rule of law. And I ran on that. I ran on getting in there, addressing this issue and supporting the men and women of law enforcement and making sure that they understood that our communities and our state were behind them. And then we saw the last 2 years, which were very hard. But what I was so proud of was that first couple of months when I was in office, I launched the Back the Blue campaign. And that was before any of the more mainstream media issues that we were seeing. And so I was proud of that because we had already been going around and highlighting the good deeds and showing what law enforcement meant to a civilized society under a rule of law. But we were also recognizing organizations that were proactively, with passion, trying to bridge the trust gap between law enforcement and the communities that they love and live in and serve. And so when we did see some of the chaos and riots happening across the nation, in Florida, there was a tone that was set that, yes, we will address specific instances of bad acts, absolutely, with fervor. And we will make adjustments always to improve our ranks, our training, our recruitment, our discipline. We will always try and make sure that we are serving our communities in that way. But at the same time, we can never let go of this community-wide, statewide commitment to supporting and praising and being thankful for men and women who sign up for these dangerous jobs. And I often like to remind people, these folks wake up every morning and they put on a badge and a gun on the side of their hip. And they also put on a bulletproof vest.
Right.
I mean, the impact of that image on everyone, they don't do that because it's the style or that they want to look cool. It's because, as we have seen, they go to work every day not knowing if they will come home. And that takes a really incredibly special person, a person that you have to have if you're going to remain a nation under a rule of law. And if for a second you think that that is not important for what we are as a country and as a state, look at the news right now. Just this morning, they were saying in Mexico, they found, a dozen people buried in a hole.
Right.
And they have, over 90,000 missing. I mean, that is because criminals run countries, not here in the United States. And certainly it won't happen here in the United States, in Florida, as long as I'm Attorney General.
No, I appreciate your work on that. It is so important to honor our law enforcement and make sure that we're giving them all the support they need. One of the differences between Florida, you mentioned a 50-year low in crime, is we look around the country and some of our once great cities like San Francisco and Chicago are having these gangs of retail theft where, the local state attorney will say, I'm not going to prosecute anybody under $1,000. So they run in and steal $900 out of the Target, and, Target's shutting down and Walgreens is shutting down. And I know that you've been very focused on retail theft and making sure those problems don't happen in Florida. Can you speak to that issue for a minute?
Yes, and one of the biggest points I make on this issue is this shouldn't be a political issue. Whether or not someone that is trusted with enforcing the law actually does their job and enforces the law, that should not matter what party you're from. We should all, as responsible community members, insist on that, or demand the person that abdicates that responsibility be fired. I mean, that is one of the basic functions of government. And the really dangerous thing you are seeing around the nation, especially if you took the top 15 cities where murder has skyrocketed, violent crime has skyrocketed, you are most likely going to see a prosecutor that has been elected, and I'm going to say prosecutor in title only, that has been elected, that refuses to enforce the laws on the books that have been given to him or her to prosecute. You're probably also going to see either a mayor, if they have strong mayor responsibilities, or a city council that doesn't support law enforcement. You can just look at the numbers. We don't make this up. And you have once thriving, prosperous, successful cities that people wanted to go to, travel to, take their families.
Some of the best cities in the world, right?
Well, what happens is you have businesses that are there to cater to that, to provide for that as folks are coming in and being a part of this thriving city. Once someone comes in and says, well, we will no longer protect you. We're no longer going to make sure that folks don't, run rampant on your stores and just walk out with your merchandise. Well, businesses can't keep up with the theft, the property dissipation. They can't keep pace with commercial insurance rates. When it comes more expensive to have a business than to close the shop, because you can't keep pace with theft or insurance rates because of property destruction or loss, then they close up shop. You see this in one area where Walgreens, I think it was, had to pull out 17 stores.
Right, I think
and
it's
then
San
what
Francisco.
happens? Yeah, so then what happens? Folks that need those jobs follow the businesses. So what was once a great city, thriving city, becomes less and less and less in terms of offering folks that reside there and live there and go there to enjoy that city. And folks will start going somewhere else,
Right.
like Florida.
Yes, we're seeing
like
that.
the great free state of Florida.
Right.
And hey, our citizens are going to benefit from that. You're seeing the resources now as a result of that. The great leadership of Governor DeSantis throughout the pandemic, we were able to recover quickly. Our business, I will guarantee you, once the studies are done, we lost less businesses than other states because we quickly allowed them to get back up and running. We are the beneficiaries of that. You see that in this session. We're able to use those resources that have come into the state to better our infrastructure, to ensure that our law enforcement get pay raises and can still sign up for those noble positions. I can go on and on and on, but that's because of leadership. It doesn't happen by mistake. It's not a fluke. It is strategic, common sense leadership. And I think that's really what sets Florida apart from other states. And as long as we stay on this track, Florida is in for a bright future.
We are. Now, before I let you go, you and I have been friends for years, and I previewed this for you, but we have a problem in our relationship, which is you recently engineered this hometown Plant City woman declaration of strawberry shortcake as the state's dessert, which I love a Plant City strawberry as much as the next person, but we have this thing called key lime pie in Florida. You might have heard of it. World renowned, unique to Florida. And here you are, using the authority that you've been given by the people to railroad this strawberry shortcake thing. And I just want you to explain yourself here to our viewers.
Well, I will admit key lime pie is at most, if not all, of our family gatherings. And that is a fifth generation Floridian or Plant City family saying that. But I will say, folks don't realize this, but the strawberry is a significant player in Florida's economy. During the winter, we provide, just in Plant City, 3/4 of the nation's strawberries. And so if we're going to have a state dessert, it should be on a dessert that is fueling and playing a part in Florida's tremendous success. Of course, being a hometown girl from Plant City, Florida, I'm incredibly proud. We just met with all the growers, and they're incredibly excited about what this will mean for showing the strawberry significance to the state. But all my Key West and South Florida friends, don't fret not. You are still the official state pie, the key lime pie, and you will still have a place in my heart and on our table.
Very good. Very well said. So, well, Attorney General Ashley Moody, thank you so much for your time today. We know how busy you are, especially with the end of session. And thank you for all that you do for the people of Florida. We're really grateful to have public servants like you in a position like this. And thanks for being on Gunster's View from the Top.
Absolutely. Great to see you.
Take care.